Well, there's a lot of takeaways from last week around the football world in the Big Ten, and Indiana looks like a legitimate college football playoff contender. We talked that and a whole lot more on this Locked On Crossover.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, and it is a Locked On crossover between Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. I'm Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Zach Seyko, host of Locked On Nittany Lions, and thank you so much for making our shows your go-to spots, your first listen or your first watch every single day. And man, there's so much to get to from last week around the Big Ten. And Zach, I hate to do it to the folks, but Indiana looks like a legitimate college football playoff team.
No hate over here.
I say that, yes, as the Indiana guy, but talking about this from a zoomed out Big Ten perspective, I mean, the conference has to be proud of what Indiana was able to do last week against Illinois.
I mean, it's massive, and it's only one of the major consequences and storylines that we're going to get into last week to start off, and then all the games that we get to preview this week, right? There are more showdowns, but Indiana absolutely made a statement. A statement's an understatement, because 63-10 against a top team. I don't care that it was at Indiana, home field advantage and everything. Curt Cignetti continues to prove. I've always said that, hey, this guy's a top 10 coach. I'm not really buying a whole lot or selling a whole lot away from the fact that, hey, Notre Dame just beat them decisively. It wasn't a dominant victory. They just beat them decisively. That was a home game for the Fighting Irish. Oh, but that defines what Curt Cignetti is. That's his ceiling at Indiana. No, it's not. Especially with the resources and NIL and everything they devoted to him. Curt Cignetti is one of the best coaches in college football right now. I think more people are going to start to make the argument that, hey, especially when Penn State and Indiana rolls around respectively, who's a better head coach in that circumstance? I will say this. I think from a football perspective, Curt Cignetti. From a program manager, I still need to see more from Cignetti, but Franklin, I would still give that, because that's the whole college deal, is that you also have to be a CEO, a program manager, rather than just an X's and O's coach. But yeah, Cignetti, very unfriendly reminder that he is a top 10. He is firmly inside the top 10 in all of college football for coaches.
And now, I'll just be honest with you, I will be keeping up with Illinois to see, okay, do they just crumble, right? Does Illinois just completely fall out of the ranks, and do they fall apart, or can they bounce back and be a playoff contender still with a tough schedule? They play in the Big Ten. You're going to have some big games on there. I mean, I still like Brett Bielema. I still think they have a talented team, and if they can get healthy, I think they can still make some noise, along with Michigan, who might be, other than Indiana, my team of the week, because they beat Nebraska against everybody picking against them last week.
I mean, we were pretty sharp with our picks of Michigan. We thought that, hey, Bryce Underwood getting that exposure to Oklahoma, just kind of going into a feisty road environment, and that it was fair to say, hey, the Wolverines at least have a better setup than what Nebraska. They're in a similar situation, young quarterback, new head coach, or at least a head coach that hasn't been there for 5, 10, 15 years, right? They're in a similar situation, honestly, with where they are as programs respectively, and Michigan's just better. I'm surprised that this turned into a bit of a back and forth shootout. I didn't think that two give or take top 15 defenses would have 57 points. You also, I don't look at the scoreboard too much, because remember, Nebraska had a Hail Mary in there. So I don't think that this game was as close as the scoreboard says. And then Nebraska puts on a late touchdown to make it 30-27. Michigan won this game decisively. They went into a hostile road environment, true freshman quarterback, tough as nails, cold as ice. Very impressed with Michigan, and honestly, a team that could, I mean, who knows? Does the Big Ten get 5 teams into the college football playoff?
Ooh, I mean, if
Penn State, Oregon, no order. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, Indiana, Michigan.
I think it's a possibility, and you can't count out USC, right?
No,
if USC
can't.
Keeps winning, they looked fairly good against Michigan
6.
State. I know the Spartans. Yeah, I mean, the Spartans put up some points, but USC, I don't see anybody keeping up with USC scoring-wise if they just get an absolute shootout.
Well, and that's why I'm glad that we get to talk about Illinois USC, because then we get to learn more about both of these teams. But right now, if I had to say, hey, who are the five? If there are five Big Ten teams who are getting in, the five that I first named there, with USC being that 5B if for some reason Michigan were to falter. But hey, they play each other, so they kind of get to decide who's going to be that team.
Yeah, they do. And I was impressed by USC, but we're going to learn exactly who they are just to give you an idea on what USC has coming up. At Illinois, home for Michigan, at Notre Dame, and at Nebraska. And don't worry, they go to Oregon the second to last game of the year, too. So you're going to know everything about this USC team by the time it's said and done, Zach.
That's why I'm thinking it's Michigan. If the Big Ten's going to push 5 into the college football playoff. And who knows at the end of the day, maybe is it crazy to think it's 6? Is it crazy? Because I know that
the SEC people are losing their minds, Zach. Stop it.
The SEC, yeah. So you have the group of 5. You're going to have a Big 12 team. You have an ACC team. I mean, so then the SEC would have 3. So 5 is probably pushing the limit there if I'm doing a bit of math there. As much as I want to say 6, as much as I want to give props to the conference that we're in, 5 does seem a lot more likely than it does not. Let's just say that.
I think that's a fair statement. And I think 4 is absolutely a possibility. And I mean,
that's a guarantee.
Let's play the comparison game for a second. What is the SEC showing at the top that gives you confidence they can put 4 or 5 teams in? I haven't seen it.
Well, again, it's going to be the attrition of, well, we're the SEC, so we play the best teams on any given week, and therefore we're going to suffer a couple losses here and there that we normally wouldn't in another situation. So that's kind of it. Is it's such a battle, it's such a cluster that the natural attrition of the SEC. So that's the argument there. And I guess, Big Ten people we'd probably say the same thing. At the end of the day, I think it's to where the ACC and the Big 12 are only going to get one representative in. You are never going to get multiple from either conference, and it's going to be a tug of war between the Big 10 and the SEC for who gets 5 and who gets 4, and vice versa. So you have your group of 6, your group of 5, your group of 6, one ACC, your conference champion, one Big 12 champion, and then the rest of the 2 conference champions for the Big 10 and the SEC, and then all those at-large bids.
Man, the world is just not ready for the Big Ten to have 4, 5, 6. It's like LeBron when he went to Miami. Not 4, not 5, not 6. The world's not ready for the Big Ten to continue to run the sport of college football because they have won the last couple national championships. And so they're well on their way to doing it yet again because of teams like Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, and beyond. The storylines are endless. We continue talking those here on a Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions.
And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIH Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorizations of your spending, and finally feel like you are in control of your money. Without ever touching a spreadsheet, you can maximize your investments, increase your savings rate, easily review finances with your partner or a financial advisor, keeping a clear view of your financial health week to week and long term. Don't let the financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for Half off your first year. That's right. Half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege.
All right, we continue on with a Locked On crossover. Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. I'm Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Zach Seyko of Locked On Nittany Lions. And as we transition, right, from 1 week to the next, you have these teams at the top. You've got quarterbacks playing extremely good football. My guy, Fernando Mendoza, according to our friends at FanDuel, the Heisman favorite on the betting line, and I think he deserves it, honestly, just speaking truthfully. But is there a particular storyline or maybe even a player, coach, or program, Zach, that you're going to have your eyes on transitioning from 1 week to the next here?
Yeah, I guess it's going to be, I mean, if we're talking from the Heisman angle, right, Jade Mayava over at USC, that would be a favorable play there. Overall, you're looking at Indiana to kind of push past, okay, is this another fringe top 10 team? They sneak into the college football playoff, or are we talking about them as a true Big Ten title contender? Would they meet an Ohio State in the Big Ten championship? Would they get a rematch with Penn State in the Big Ten championship? Would they play in Oregon? Are they in that conversation of tier 1 of the Big Ten, or is it still they're kind of the 1B? They get that at-large bid. And I think Indiana should absolutely be considered a team that can get to a Big Ten title, win a Big Ten title, and potentially be a top 4 seed if everything continues to go well. It couples with coaching. It couples with how quickly Mendoza has been able to embrace an actual supporting cast. And that's what teams are looking for, that's why the portal exists. Part of the reason why the portal exists, other than, player mobility and player rights and everything.
Sure.
But you see, hey, this player's doing really good at a bad program. Imagine if we gave him the support system, what he could be. So that's the idea behind all of this. You're seeing it, and I know John Mateer, we're not an SEC show, even though we're talking about the SEC, but John Mateer goes down with that hand injury. But that's the idea, is you have Mateer now at Oklahoma. Look how he's doing. You have Mendoza over at Indiana. You have Mayava who at USC. He was at UNLV, and it's like, you can do that at UNLV. What can you do for us at a much better program? So I guess the same thing goes for a Granowski at Iowa too, because again, Iowa we didn't even get to some of these other results, Jacob, between we talked about Michigan, Nebraska, but Notre Dame doesn't have a defense, so the offense is just going to push them to victory, right? But Purdue at least made it fun. I'll
give you that. They did make it fun.
Made it fun.
There's clearly a difference, right, in talent there between Notre Dame and Purdue, even with a Notre Dame team that shouldn't be ranked in the top 25, in my opinion. But you're right. I'll give you that. Purdue made it fun.
And then shame on me for saying that, hey, Mike Locksley is going to be one of the first coaches fired, or the odds are, if he isn't, the odds are high that it will be. And I mean, Maryland went into Wisconsin. You want to talk about true freshman quarterbacks being cold as ice, game changers. Malik Washington, Penn State recruited him. Penn State recruited him hard.
He's good.
That was a player that could have been a starter at Penn State. And it's like, okay, he's starting at Maryland as a true freshman. That's still commendable there. But he's winning games for this team. It's a reflection of Maryland. It's also a reflection of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's in bad shape.
That was my next question. Is this more about Maryland being a good team or Wisconsin just being a dumpster?
They're in terrible shape. And it's not, I will not blame Luke Fickell, actually. I will blame the powers. I will blame the powers that be at Wisconsin. I don't think this is not a Luke Fickell problem. I don't think there are a lot of other coaches that could solve this. They are not willing to compete in terms of NIL, but also just the dollars it takes to go up in the football power complex, the resources, the stadium rebuilds. Illinois commits all this money to a stadium rebuild. Penn State's doing the same thing. Wisconsin is, at least at the moment, Indiana commits all this money to NIL and a coaching staff and things like that. I don't know that Wisconsin's ready to do that, or maybe they need another reminder that you have to keep up or you're going to get left behind. So I think Wisconsin now moves to this bottom tier where Northwestern, Purdue, you're in that boat.
Oh,
you're not in the middle trying to fight your way to the top. You're down at the bottom.
Which is so wild to think about for a Wisconsin team that not all that long ago, Zach, was competing for New Year's Six Bowls every single year and Big Ten championship games.
I don't think Paul Christ would even be able to solve this. It's a systematic issue. It is not one man. It is not one person.
And I hate it, but Luke Fickell's obviously going to be the one that gets the blame. He is the one getting the blame, and he ultimately will be the one that loses his job. And it will probably be this year there in Madison. And so lots of storylines from last week, but now we transition into what's coming up on the slate this week before we make all of our official picks in the final segment. Your boys up there in Happy Valley have the game of the week. It is Penn State. It's Oregon. Number 6 Ducks. Number 3 Nittany Lions. Game day is going to be there. The whole country's watching Oregon and Penn State. How are we feeling over there in Happy Valley, Zach?
I mean, is this the game of the season, right? Let's take it a step further. Okay. That you have the Whiteout. This is a top 5 matchup. I don't care, from a branding standpoint. I think Oregon is a top 5 team. I think Penn State's a top 5 team. And if I had to bump somebody out, I mean, I'd bump LSU. I'd bump Miami. I think Oregon would beat both of those teams, and I think Penn State would beat both of those teams. So this is, even though the paper's not going to show it, this is a top 5 matchup. It is the Whiteout. It's early in the season, so this is going to have static shock waves for either side for the remainder of the season, but bigger consequences for Penn State, because if you lose to Oregon at home like this, when the situation is favorable, what does that mean for Ohio State on the road? What does that mean for a game like Indiana now, which becomes, hey, Penn State should be a solid favorite to... You might get knocked out by Curt Cignetti. Your season might be ended by Curt Cignetti and the Hoosiers. So this is kind of a winner-take-all situation where, look, some people say that, Penn State will be fine as long as they're 10-2, they get in, but you don't have the leverage anymore. You're playing from behind. Yeah. And I don't want Penn State to do that. When you can get a signature victory, you can kind of just give yourself a boost as a program in general. This is one of those victories where it needs to happen. And if it doesn't happen now, then it may not happen ever.
Nittany Lions coming off a bye week last week. They played their 3 non-conference games. They had the bye week. They have Oregon coming to their house. The Ducks, of course, have taken care of some P4 teams. They beat Oklahoma State, which obviously isn't much.
They got a coach fired.
They did, and that was a long time coming. They beat Northwestern on the road. They took care of Oregon State, and so it is the game of the week, one of the best games of the season. You're calling it the game of the year, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. USC and Illinois, that's a top 25 matchup. Ohio State goes to Seattle, Zach. I'm telling you, don't overlook the Huskies here. We're going to make picks coming up in a moment, but I think Washington has everything they need to pull off what would be a crazy upset here.
I think so too. I think it's the road trip that is going to be the most daunting thing there for Ohio State, Washington. I do kind of wish this was a later game for them. I wish this was a 7:30 primetime, but NBC, right? And the structure of things, Fox, CBS, NBC, NBC getting the Whiteout here. Yeah. This feels like it should be a night game. I can't believe Washington's not ranked in the top 25.
It's criminal. It's criminal.
Why? They're a top 20. That's a top 20 team. Maybe
Notre Dame has taken their spot. That's the problem. You have a 1-2 Notre Dame team who's ranked 24th in the country.
We could split hairs about where they should be actually ranked, but I think Washington's just on the outside of the top 15, solidly within the top 20. This is a top 20 matchup. Ohio State still has the offensive weapons to get into a shootout with Washington. Yep. We'll make our picks, but this matchup's going to be extremely, extremely entertaining.
We flirted with it. Let's get to it. Let's make our picks for some of the biggest games, all the games in the Big Ten coming up this week at college football. We do that here on a Locked On Crossover.
And the show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's right, $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, it's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays, but also your Saturdays with college football, with Penn State taking on Oregon this Saturday. Penn State is a 3.5-point favorite against Oregon at home. Minus 162 on the money line. If you're thinking Oregon, plus 134, the total is set at 52.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets.
All right, final segment of this Locked On crossover, Hoosiers and Nittany Lions, and it's the best time of the week. We get to make our official game picks for all of the matchups in the Big Ten, and as far as I can see, no Friday night matchups this week. We've finally getting off that train a little bit. Couple of teams on a bye, and so we're able to squeeze them all into Saturday morning, afternoon, and evening. Let's work top to bottom here. Let's go noon on Fox. It's number 21 USC, number 23 Illinois, as Southern Cal trying to stay undefeated. They are going to Illinois, having to pick themselves off the mat with a bunch of injuries here. USC or Illinois, Zach, who gets it done and why?
Illinois is in really a tough spot. So if you've been watching that team closely between targeting calls and just missing starters already, I don't like this matchup for USC strictly from this is just, is this abuse at this point? with Fox putting Utah and Texas Tech, a local 10 a.m. kickoff at big noon, and now you're doing this again where this is a 9 a.m. game for USC. This is really, like I said, I think it's abuse by the TV networks. I'm going to go with USC for the sake of, now Brett Bielema, if he calls this game to a T, the coaching can win this. If they play some 4D chess here, and I think Brett Bielema is capable of it. This one's going to go down to the wire. Does USC have enough into the tank? I would like to think so. I would like to, because when I look at the staff and what Lincoln Riley has built, I say they have enough. This is a veteran experienced team. It is going to be close, even though Illinois may or may not be missing some star key players, but I will still go USC to sneak away with a victory. But it's very likely that Illinois could win this game.
You said the key word, and even if Illinois is still banged up, we'll see what the official injury reports look like closer to kickoff, but yeah. I think coaching is the word here, and frankly, I think Brett Bielema is a better coach than Lincoln Riley, just plain and simple. I think he is. I think he's a better in-game coach, he's a better decision maker, and he's not as much of a hothead at times. I'm taking Illinois to bounce back, pick themselves up off the mat as 6.5-point underdogs as we record this episode. I like Illinois to win and pull off a major upset. We'll do quickly right here, Rutgers, Minnesota. I'll take Rutgers to pull off the upset. Why? I don't know. No reason other than give me another upset on the road.
I need to keep up more with Minnesota, so I am willing to admit my ignorance when it comes to the Golden Gophers. I was not high on them coming into the season. Is PJ Fleck flirting with the UCLA job at this point in time? So there are some other external factors or internal factors that we do not know about surrounding this Minnesota team. But I like Rutgers. What I saw, Iowa's committing holding, pass interference left and right in that game against Rutgers. That offense is legit for the Scarlet Knights. Kirk Shirako was a one-and-done offensive coordinator at Penn State. Those were the Zoom meetings and everything because of the COVID season. The dude is a quarterback whisperer. Ethan Kaliakmanis, are you kidding me? Ethan Kaliakmanis looks like a top 5 quarterback within the Big Ten. I mean that. I am not trying to over-exaggerate. Go watch the tape against Phil Parker, legacy defensive coordinator at Iowa, and how Rutgers was able to tear the defense apart. If it wasn't for some and it was egregious. I thought the refs did a terrible job in that game. They call that game fairly. Rutgers probably wins. I will take the upset here with Rutgers winning.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I just didn't like what I saw from Minnesota when they played Cal, who beat Minnesota by 2 scores, and then Cal turned around and got blanked by San Diego State. That kind of told me everything that I needed to know. So I like Rutgers to go on the road, and I'm with you, pull off the upset and win this game. We continue moving down our picks for this week in the Big Ten. I'm telling you, this is the sneakiest game on the slate. It's the number 1 ranked team in the country. The Ohio State Buckeyes go all the way out to Seattle. They walk into Husky Stadium mid-afternoon and take on an undefeated Washington Huskies team. I'll go ahead and give you my pick. I think Ohio State wins, but Washington's going to give them everything that they want and cover an 8.5-point spread, according to our friends at FanDuel. Ohio State will win, but Washington has the athletes to keep up just one-on-one, man for man. You're talking about a quarterback, a receiver, and a running back that Washington have that I think are up there for the best in the country with anybody, including the Ohio State Buckeyes. Husky Stadium's hard to play in, man, and that crowd is going to be electric. I'm with you. I wish this was a night game. I wish it had a chance to just have that extra juice that it deserves. But regardless, Washington will give them everything they want. And the public thinks the same thing. This opened up at 13.5 for the Buckeyes, all the way down to 8.5. Give me Ohio State to win, but Washington to cover.
See, if Matt Patricia was able to do what he did against Arch Manning and Texas and Steve Sarkisian,
that's fair.
I got to imagine that it's going to be similar. It's going to be a similar workup against Damon Williams. I don't know that he's, you could make the argument that he's better than Arch Manning and that Washington just has it figured out and stuff like that. So that's how you got to compare it. Okay. Yeah. Arch Manning versus Damon Williams, Texas's offense against Washington's offense, Texas's coaching staff against Washington's coaching staff. This is an away game. Ohio State's got to go through the travel, which is why I think people are really factoring in, hey, from a point spread, okay, these are legitimate. You can put points in favor of Washington here. But I just think it's one coaching staff, it's one experienced coordinator versus another. I think the line's moved enough where I think Ohio State still wins by double digits. I was thinking something like 31-20, something like that, 31-21, where it's still. I think Ohio's and Washington just does not have a defense. They don't. Yeah. I think that even if Ohio State struggles a little bit because of the jet lag, the defense is going to set them up with opportunities. I don't know how Washington it could get out of control. I'll trust the Buckeyes here to cover and win comfortably.
We move on to a game in Iowa going into Kinnick Stadium. It's Indiana on the road for the first time this season.
What do we know about this team? What do we know? We don't know. We don't know jack about them.
I don't know. I did a lot of research before I hopped on this recording today. I just want to remind people that Indiana went on the road for the first time last season, went all the way out to Los Angeles to the mighty Rose Bowl and just demolished a UCLA team who was not good, by the way. And the stadium is obviously not all that impressive either. But Indiana went on the road and handled business. And so do I give my pick? Am I allowed to pick this game, or is that like a conflict of interest here, Zach? I don't know.
No, it's not. And honestly, Indiana fans are pretty accurate because I saw the consensus score was 70-0 against Illinois last week. That was the consensus prediction. And y'all were right. Y'all were spot on because I saw Sonny, our good friend Sonny over at Locked On. I can't believe everyone's picking Illinois to lose 70-0. Am I crazy? Yeah, you were the crazy one, honestly. So I am going to take your prediction with Indiana here very seriously.
Yeah, I do. I think Indiana wins. I think Indiana will win comfortably. I'm not predicting 63-10. I think that's a crazy idea to predict that, but Indiana's good enough to do something similar. I like this game to be gross early, Indiana to just pull away. Look, I was not built to come back against good teams. I know they did it a week ago, but they can't do it against the Indiana defense like we saw last week. Indiana's offense is too potent. I think it's too good. I think it's too talented. They can't keep up with Fernando Mendoza and the guys on the outside. I like Indiana to win this one. I like 38-21, if that. I think 38-17 is a real possibility here, too. I like Indiana big.
I will take points. I'm going to take you up on that and say that I'm buying into Iowa's offense. I just think people, the analysts, the expanded personnel, like people don't consider these things. And Iowa, for what it's worth, I know everybody wants to dunk on them that they can't. Quarterbacks are bad. Why do they don't know how to throw to wide receivers? Throwing stones over here in a glass house, right? But Iowa figured it out schematically on offense to where they improved. And they are respectable, and they can get into shootout type of situations. Now, Indiana's defense is much better than Rutgers' defense, so there is that. But I will take points here. Could I see it being close? But I feel like Iowa's going to be playing from behind a lot of the time. And Mark Granowski is not wholly inaccurate, even though they can move the football, but he's not going to be able to will them to victory with his arm. It takes a lot of dual threat type of stuff. So, but I'm expecting points. I would say something like 35-24 Indiana.
Okay, our boy Zach Seyko picking the Indiana Hoosiers. We're going to pick Oregon Penn State in just a moment, but I mean, we got to take enough time that is due here for an 0-3 UCLA team.
Why not?
And
We might as well talk about that
Northwestern
game for
team.
10 minutes.
I mean, UCLA coming off a bye, new head coach. I mean, what could go wrong, right? What could go wrong for UCLA on the road at Northwestern, a stadium that holds 6,000 people? Northwestern, almost a touchdown favorite. Tell me the last time Northwestern was favored by a touchdown over a P4 opponent. I'll wait.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I can't believe I'm seeing 6.5 points, and it's because I can't believe I'm not seeing 10.5 points or more than that.
Yeah, I think Northwestern wins big. I think
Double
Northwestern's
digits.
not all that bad. They've just had 2 tough games out of the gate. I'm with you.
Yeah, I don't see it with the travel. If this was at UCLA, I'd probably reconsider. You could say the motivational factor. Hey, let's prove the doubters wrong. This is not the game to do that because Northwestern always feels like it has a chip on its shoulder, and for good reason. But that's the way they play, right? That's their mantra. That's their signature of football. Northwestern's a physical team. They can run the football. I don't see how UCLA makes this a game, and I think Northwestern wins by double digits.
Yep, I like it there. Okay, game of the week, game of the year, according to Zach Seyko. Number 6, Oregon. Number 3, Penn State. It's the Whiteout. It's in Beaver Stadium. It's in Happy Valley. The entire country will have this on their television sets. Tell it like it is, my friend. It's Oregon, Penn State. Our friends at FanDuel have the Nittany Lions as 3.5-point favorites in this football game. Who wins and why?
All right. The books are sharp with this one. I think this is because the books had this at 28-24 Penn State, roughly, give or take. Okay. Because that's the football score. What is it going to be, 28-25? No, probably not. But that's how I see it, as this is a game that, hey, a field goal, or if you're held to a field goal, that very well might be the difference. When you needed to go and finish in the red zone and you're held to a field goal, that's going to be kind of the difference here. I do like a little more points. I think Penn State, having the extra week to prepare, as sluggish first early start through the non-conference slate, but they brought back. Am I just supposed to completely sell out on this veteran team, all the stars that they brought back? All right, so be it. Everybody else has. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy into what everybody's selling. Penn State brought back this group. Andy Kotelnicki stayed. They brought Jim Knowles in. Jim Knowles cracked the code on Will Stein's offense that second time around. This is at Beaver Stadium. We want to talk about jet lag and teams flying across the country. That stuff matters. Yep. I will take Penn State. It will be close because I really like what Oregon has done. I'll say 31-27, Nittany Lions.
Look, I think Oregon has played extremely well this year, and I don't think there's any denying that. Has the competition been all that great? No, not really, right? Oklahoma State, Northwestern, and Oregon State, those will be the worst teams they play on their schedule all season. But I am a believer in Dante Moore. I think he's a extremely talented. I think he's the real deal. But I think Penn State's atmosphere is legit. I think Penn State's defense is legit. And if Drew Allar and that offense can just kind of get going, right? Get out of that rut, especially in the first half, right? I know you've talked so much about that. Get off to a good start at home. I think Penn State does. Oregon will have some responses in there, and they're too talented of a team not to. But I like Penn State to win this football game. I like 27-20 Penn State. I like the Nittany Lions to win, and I like the Nittany Lions to cover as well. And in terms of playoff implications, really quick before we go, Seyko, winner is obviously on their way to making it. The loser's not out, right? We're not going that far.
No, 3 losses is if you can get in with 2 if you are any of Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. Now Indiana is included in that. But does that conversation extend to a Michigan, a USC? And it might. That was our conversation earlier then. But 2 losses doesn't doom you or anything. It's that 3rd loss that is detrimental. So don't lose 3 if you're one of these 5 schools that we've named.
Indiana plays Iowa. Penn State plays Oregon. We'll both go live on our respective channels, have all sorts of shows and content and things for you. So make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Hoosiers on YouTube, Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube. Of course, you can find both of our shows wherever you get your podcasts on your audio platforms as well. Hit the notification so you never miss a new episode. And our everydayers, we appreciate you. We are back for normal episodes tomorrow and another crossover next week, as we do each and every week, talking all things Big Ten. So until next time, Hoosier and Nittany Lion fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.